everyone, it's Elizabeth from Elpis Astrology at elpisastrology.com. Thanks for joining me today. So today I'm going to do my monthly video for August 2022. I'll start off with an introduction of the moons and what's going on, and then I'll finish off with your sun signs and or ascendants for each of you individually. As always, I put timestamps, so if you want to go directly to your sign, you can do that. But I'd encourage you to actually listen to a little bit of this introduction. So this is going to be a very interesting month, August 2022. We start off on the 1st of August with Mars, Uranus, and the North Nodes of the Moon, all at 18 degrees of Taurus. So therefore they are all conjunct. This is a very powerful transit and setup here. And I would say that there's going to be a number of things that will come out of this, some of which probably started at the end of July, because some of these effects were already happening right at the end of July. And I'm making this video towards the end of the first week of July 2022. So we're yet to see how this all plays out, although we can see that food shortages, safety and security are big all over the world right now. But when we look back historically to a time period where 18 degrees of Taurus, which is where Uranus was at, was way back in between May 1939 to March 1940. What's interesting, at this time, we also had Jupiter in Aries, which of course is where it is right now. But what was different at that time period was that the North Nodes of the Moon were in the opposite sign they are now. So they were in Scorpio, not like they are in Taurus at this time. What was happening at that time? Well, World War II was really beginning, and that was, of course, with Hitler literally marching into Poland and taking it over. What was also of interest to me at this time was I started reading some of the articles that were published. And people like Hitler and Mussolini. Mussolini was a dictator of Italy at the time. And of course, Stalin was in Russia. All these guys were kind of working together behind the scenes. They would put out these, I guess, news bites saying, oh no, we want peace, especially Mussolini and Hitler. You read these articles and they were saying, no, we want peace in Europe. We'll do everything we can. We've signed these accords to make sure there's peace. And in reality, what was happening was they were all agreeing to basically support Hitler in his pursuit of basically taking over Europe and starting with Poland. And Poland in particular, he worked with Stalin. They were going to divide up that Poland so that both would have some kind of stake in that country. So that was going on at this time. There were a lot of other not so great things either. We had the Jews, of course, being persecuted at this time. Hitler also put through this decree for euthanasia for all folks that were determined to be having mental problems or mental difficulties. So this was a very dark time in many ways in the world. So how does this now come up to relate to us? Well, for us, we're lucky, as I said, we've got the North Nodes in Taurus, which puts a little more stability and fixedness, and at least slows things down a little bit. It doesn't stop this whole eruption that is going to happen throughout the month of August, starting in the first week. But I thought there might be some other things. We've modernized our world so much since World War II. In particular, all our electronic systems, all how we communicate is so much different. So I thought one of the things that could happen with this whole conjunction, which I call the grand conjunction, is that there could be some big electronic disruptions that happen at this time. Now, whether these are, man-made, where we have people causing these disruptions, that could happen, where there's a complete meltdown of things. So I would say, even though this is not a Mercury retrograde, You might want to back up all your stuff and maybe even take some physical copies of things that might be really important for you in August. It's certainly what I've been doing. Now, what's nice is that we have the moon at the 1st of August. It's going to also be at 18 degrees, but it'll be at 18 degrees of Virgo. So this is adding favorable energy to this. So my feeling is that whatever is blown up, metaphorically, figuratively, or really, this Virgo moon is really saying, so Virgo likes to look at the facts, look at the information and say, should I keep this? Should I not keep this? It's also about health for sure. So I think this is going to bring in a favorable element of this. What needs to go? What needs to stay? And I think that's going to be made much clearer for each of us individually as well as collectively. Now, we're also going to have Mercury is going to be opposite Saturn. We have the Sun in Leo, and that's going to be squaring a retrograde Jupiter. And to me, this all just sort of equates some more drama. So I think there's a lot of layers in August itself, but especially the beginning of August. I think we're going to have a lot of people pop up that maybe we didn't really see before and start claiming their kingdom or queendom at this time. Because we have the Sun in Leo, and then this is squaring a retrograde Jupiter. Jupiter represents royalty, generally speaking, and then of course the royal sign is Leo. So something could also come up with regards to royal families at this time. We have Venus is going to be squaring Chiron, but Venus nicely sextiles this whole 3 aspects of Mars, Uranus, and the North Nodes of the Moon at 18 degrees of Taurus. So I thought also that because Venus is now being featured here from a challenge to heal, but also from bringing opportunities. Now, Venus can represent love, so maybe for some of us individually, poof, you may have something, big opportunity here with regards to destiny in your love life that comes around unexpectedly. But it can also be money. And of course, I always like to view Venus as values. And so this is also values of ourselves. What do we value? Are we being valued? But it also marks a potential new opportunity for females, right? That's what Venus also represents. So it seems like a lot of things that I'm giving an interpretation to with regards to Venus here. We're still talking about the conjunction, by the way, that 1st of August conjunction. But we'll take it for the whole first week of August for sure. So we have Saturn that will be going retrograde at 23 degrees of Aquarius. Now it's a little bit wide because, you know, those three planets and positions are at 18 degrees of Taurus, not 23, but it's still within an orb of degrees of influence. So Saturn retrograde is going to be squaring Mars, Uranus, and the North Nodes of the Moon in Taurus. So to me, this is certainly from a standpoint of Saturn, this is authority figures, the old guard as per usual. You know, really, I felt the retrograde part was digging in their heels and not letting things happen. So there's going to be a lot of challenges here as well, right? Between the old guard as well as those that want to push things forward. I mean, Mars speaks to action. It can be aggressive, and there may be some aggressive actions. I've spoken about this before in other videos, especially with regards to the earth, literally land. But Mars also requires you to have courage. So it may be at this time that we have some unexpected people that really form a new destiny path for themselves because of the courage that they take at this time. I think there's going to be a lot of things going on in this world around the month of August. And I really felt that there's almost going to be no time to be thinking before something else happens, something else pops up. I mean, in the news, just in the last couple of days, I've been surprised by an assassination of a previous Japanese prime minister, as well as the prime minister of England, the United Kingdom, resigning. These were all like not expected at all. So it's going to be in the collective, that type of thing where, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen. Yeah. So I looked up the Sabian symbol. You know, I like to look at that sometimes. And we round up this degree point of 18 degrees and some minutes. We round that up to 19 degrees of Taurus. And so what we have turning up at this time, or the message is, a new continent rising out of the ocean. And so this could literally be, of course, because I saw this, I said, wow, could we literally have something like a volcano underground or some big eruption happen that really does bring a new continent out of the ocean? But if we look at this more from a metaphorical standpoint, we're really referring to a state of enlightenment, where higher consciousness leads the way up, with the ego being left behind. So this also says, after a crisis, so that's something like this continent rising out of the water, there's a new beginning. So that refers to the whole thing that I've just been speaking to or about this past few minutes. That 1st of August, we'll take it as the first week of August. This is the Sabian symbol. So it's after a crisis comes a new beginning. Something to look forward to in the end after the dust settles, right? So we have our first lunation, which is going to be a full moon in Aquarius on the 11th of August. It will be at 19 Aquarius, 21 minutes at 6:35 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And we know if it's a full moon, we have the full moon itself is going to be in Aquarius, and then the sun's going to be in the opposite sign of Leo. So both these signs are highlighted for some kind of culmination, some kind of ending, perhaps a big spotlight being put on something. The moon will be conjunct Saturn at this time, which is retrograde, and the sun will be opposite this. So we go back to, again, these authority figures meddling with the people. And I'm looking at this moon, especially since it's in Aquarius, which really does represent the collective, right? Humanitarian causes, that type of thing. But it is the collective. And conjunct Saturn, it says authorities trying to put down the people, and clashes coming into play here, where people are trying to express what they want. They want fairness. They need humanitarian needs at this time may be high with regards to humanitarian types of causes. Venus at this time will have just gone into Leo. Mars will be sextiling a retrograde Neptune, but Mars will be trining a retrograde Pluto. The Sun and the Moon both square Uranus and the North Nodes of the Moon. So this is almost the middle of August we're talking about, and I really saw this as, I saw a lot of conflict, a lot of people rising up around the world, asking for freedom, for fairness, and for people to be treated correctly. And because we've got Mars trining Pluto, I really felt that this was powerful energy to transform through taking action. So I feel there's going to be a lot of actions taken here with regards to changing people in power. Now, Venus going into Leo, of course, is all about perhaps some females not being afraid to express their love for somebody. But just as a general theme, this has love being a little more showy with other people. So this full moon, if you're in the mood for love, don't hesitate. That's what I saw that as, just a general kind of little sub-theme to this very kind of fraught full moon that we have happening here. And because we have it squaring Uranus, just Uranus itself, and the North Nodes, which is the North Nodes represent our collective destiny, right? It's really saying there's going to be some challenges to try to make this happen. But when I go back to that Sabian symbol, I think there's going to be more hope with regards to after the great fight that, and after exerting a lot of courage from the people, we're going to have a new destiny path. And I think it could be showing up here right around this full moon. Again, I think it's letting that dust settle a little bit. New people will be in power in various parts of the world. You may be taking your power back as well. So things can shift, even as individuals, right? On the 22nd of August, after having the sun in Leo for a long time, the sun will be going into more conservative, let's look at the facts, let's take care of our health, let's be a little bit more of service to others, Virgo. On the 24th of August, we have Uranus going retrograde. Now, technically, it's still going to be at 18 degrees, but the minutes are 55 minutes. And of course, there's 60 minutes in a degree. So this is almost 19 degrees of Taurus. So that's an important date as well, the 24th of August. So Uranus, although it'll retrograde on that day, has been building up to going retrograde for some weeks, right? It's not really moved a whole lot. But officially, it goes retrograde that way. I still feel that even though Uranus is retrograde, it still can be exerting effects. It just might be a little more hidden in its surprises. Kind of a little bit like how, you know, a scorpion can sting, right? It's just going along and then boom, it gets you. So it's more that type of surprises that could be up as a result of the retrograde Uranus. So we end the month with a lovely new moon in Virgo. So happy new year to all Virgos and Virgo ascendants. This is going to be on the 27th of August. It'll be at 4 degrees of Virgo, 3 minutes, at 1:17 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Now at this time, Mars has moved into Gemini at 4 degrees. And this new moon's at 4 degrees as well. But it forms a square with this new moon. So the new moon, we know the sun and the moon are together, right, at 4 degrees of Virgo. So the square here says, and because it's in Gemini, I always look at Gemini, first of all, as the twins. So it could be two people or two entities here that are involved with trying to make something new. And Gemini, of course, refers to a lot of things, but generally speaking, communications. It rules the 3rd house, for instance. Communications, our thoughts, writing, that type of thing. But I think because Virgo can represent facts, the square said to me, wait a minute, there's something not quite right with the facts. So this new moon is going to bring up some facts that aren't quite right, and they're going to be looked at from a standpoint of a critical standpoint, where let's really see what is correct, what's right, what's wrong. So there'll be a lot of that. Usually this plays out in the media, but it could play out for you individually as well. What do I keep as truth? What do I keep as not truth? So we have Saturn retrograde will be opposite Venus. This really just brings in a focus on people's love lives, their money, and their values. So all three could be up. And it really just says, let's get serious about this. You need to take responsibilities. I really felt more this is responsibility for our money. So individually at this time, we may be prompted to actually be a little more serious about the money. But also it could be females again at this time as well, because Venus represents females too. And again, this whole Saturn thing is the old guard. It's the old guard against the female, right? And we already know that's playing out. But there could be something that comes up here that is of interest. And we will have Mercury in the sign of the law, which of course is Libra, at 1 degree. So I feel there's going to be a connection here with regards to laws. Now, Venus, or Mercury rather, is not retrograde at this time, but it will be the following month. I'll talk about that in a minute. So we have Saturn retrograde will be forming a wide square with the North Nodes, which are a little different degree now. They're at 16 degrees, and Uranus, which is at 18 degrees, and of course it's retrograde. Again, I see this as clashes with regards to we want to get on this new destiny path, but the old guard is holding us down. Literally, this may be, Saturn doesn't necessarily represent the military, but it could be that that's part of this old guard that steps in and says, no, you have to be held back from doing that. We're going to keep you in check. So it's like a check, I guess. We're going to check you. And you can't move forward. We're not going to let you move forward. We're going to cling to our old ways of doing things. I'm not moving out of this position. We have Venus now at 19 degrees of Leo, and it will be squaring that Uranus retrograde closely and a little more widely with the North Nodes. And so this may be a culmination point here with regards to females not putting up with these new laws that are not certainly meant to be in their favor. So I think we're going to see some protests here. And these protests may actually lead to a change. I know that's a little controversial to say that, but sometimes we do need to stand up for what we think is right. And certainly what we value and value of ourselves, right? So there's going to be that comes up at this new moon too. Going to be some clashes going on here. And because the Venus is in Leo, it could literally be royalty, but it could also just be our Hollywood royalty that stands up and starts making some real, maybe using electronic media, right? Any of our social media, and start saying, we've got to march for this, we've got to change this. So that may also be up at this time too. But there's a lot of drama that's coming in here also because this is Venus in Leo. So see if you've got anything around the 19 degree mark as well. But I mean, Venus too always likes to be sweet. So there may be some individuals, even towards the end of this month, even though it's a square with Uranus and widely squaring the North Nodes, Venus could sweetly bring in someone unexpectedly for you, even now at the end of August. On the 31st of August, so we end the month here, with both Mars at 6 degrees of Gemini, sextiling Jupiter, which is going to be at 6 degrees of Aries. So this brings in the end of the month opportunities to be gracious, opportunities for kind of more worldwide discussions and a new way of maybe giving information, because that Mars is in the sign of communications, Gemini. And we see Jupiter that is still in Aries, which is new roads, pioneering, new beginnings, that sort of thing. This could also initiate some kind of new opportunity here to bring in new information. That's it. New information is going to be brought in here. Now, Mars can represent males too, right? So this could be a man brings in new information at the end of the month. That's important for us with regards to our future. Jupiter very much represents our future. And then, of course, because it's in Aries, it's new ways of doing our future, right? Yeah. All right. Let's go on to the sun signs and or ascendants. For Libra, this full moon in Aquarius is in lovely 5th house. Now, we have Saturn retrograde here also in this 5th house too. Now this is going to go a couple ways, different ways for different folks. For some Librans, this could have a culmination of something like a pregnancy. A child is born. And maybe because Uranus rules Aquarius, your 5th house, it could be unexpectedly one of two things could happen. Somebody, maybe you Libra, gets pregnant, or a child maybe is born earlier than expected. That could happen by the effect of this. Full moon. It can also have some other folks deciding to maybe end a certain way of doing their own business and maybe starting a new way. Now, this also represents social media, so it might be for some Librans, they decide to let go of some form or some way of dealing with social media. It could also have some Librans deciding to end a partnership. Because this is a full moon, it's ruled by Uranus. It could be unexpectedly something happens with regards to a relationship. And with Saturn there, it's asking you to be realistic, right? But Saturn also says it's time. So for some folks, it's an ending of a relationship. Or a business. But Saturn can also, it's a retrograde Saturn too. But I'm just thinking it could be other folks that decide to maybe go back, maybe hark back or think about a business idea they had, their own business idea from the past. And they decide at this time, okay, I'm not going to do that business anymore, but I'm now going to do this. And they use Saturn effectively that way. That could also be what happens here. But the 5th house is about being your authentic self, Libra. And so with Saturn here, this is what I say. It's about time you are your authentic self. Go for it. Don't be afraid to shine. The new moon in Virgo is in your 12th house. So the 12th house may have you either taking a rest. Some Librans may do that. It can also be a time when you decide to start gathering facts about the metaphysical world. I mean, that 12th house can be highlighted for anything metaphysical. So that can be shamanism, that can be the tarot cards, even astrology could become something you start a new beginning in, where because it's Virgo and Virgo likes to collect information that's important, that's useful, that you undertake something like that. I mean, it could be, too, for some Librans that you're a writer and you decide that you're going to take this new moon and start collecting information for something you're going to publish later on, something that you want to bring to them, some facts that you want to bring to the world that are important. And maybe it has something to do with health as well. The 12th house also rules things like charities and that. So for some Librans, you may be one of those, secret donors. You could at this time decide you want to donate money to charity, but you want to be a hidden donor. You don't want to be known for what you're doing. But just as likely, you could have some Librans deciding to really put new beginnings into some kind of charity program. That could be there for some Librans as well. At the new moon at the end of the month. Now, Libra, you have your new moon in September. And on the 25th of September, you're going to have your new moon, and it'll be at 2 degrees of Libra. So Libra, take a look at where you have 2 degrees of Libra, because that's going to be activated towards the end of September at your new moon. Something to look forward to, September 2022, Libra. Take care. As always, I love hearing from everybody. If you would like your chart done, I absolutely love astrology, so the more I can do it, the happier I am. So all my details are below. I won't go into that right now. Check me out down below. Leave me comments. I'm wishing everybody a happy August. Still the summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. Please take care of yourself. August is action-packed month. I would say, please always be your authentic self during this month of Leo, but also respect others around you, right? That's the opposite sign. Always act in a humanitarian way. That's the Aquarian way. Take care, everybody. I'm sending everybody lots of love. September 2022, Mars goes into shadow at 8 degrees of Gemini, and we have a Mercury retrograde in Libra that goes direct at 24 of Virgo. That's an interesting Mercury retrograde. The law is going to be up in September. I'll discuss that more in my September video. Bye for now.